Welcome to Homeschool 101 Module 2. This module is about Texas homeschool laws and where to find information on other states. That part is actually really quick. I'll give it to you now. If you go to the hslda.org website, that's the Homeschool Legal Defense Association website, they have a page on there for every state. So if you find yourself outside the great state of Texas, you might want to just stop this video now and go there and find the information on the laws in your state. Otherwise, this is going to cover everything about Texas, and it's going to be a little bit long because it's very important information. So hang in there. I'll try and just get through it as fast as we can to give you everything you need to know. Believe it or not, homeschool families in the great state of Texas in the 1980s feared prosecution from local school districts. Back in 1923, Texas had revised their compulsory attendance rules to state that children studying at home were considered part of their own private school. They were left alone for the most part until 1981, when the TEA, which is the Texas Education Agency, changed their interpretation of compulsory attendance laws and applied them to homeschoolers as well. This led to children being tracked down and being called truant, and 150 families were facing prosecution by 1985. Homeschool dad and lawyer Shelby Sharp filed a class action suit, Leeper versus Arlington ISD, and he reminded the court that in 1923 it was determined that homeschoolers, as long as they met state requirements, were not subject to compulsory attendance and could not be found truant. Tarrant County Court agreed in 1987, and the TEA appealed to the 2nd District Court of Appeals, who also agreed with homeschoolers, and so the TEA appealed again all the way up to the Texas Supreme Court. In 1994, Supreme Court case TEA versus Leeper was decided in a unanimous decision that homeschoolers were considered private schools when it came to compulsory attendance laws. Again, as long as they meet the legal requirements of a homeschool. So that's what we'll get to next. What are the requirements for homeschools in Texas? Since the ruling borrowed language from the 1923 law, it sounds a little strange to our modern ears, but it officially states that homeschools must be bona fide, and you have to say that with a Texas accent. It simply means that it's not a sham. Don't say you're homeschooling so you can keep your kids home playing video games all day. The second part is that you must be using a visual curriculum, books, workbooks, video monitor, something you could show someone if they asked, which they probably won't unless there were more serious allegations of abuse or neglect going on. You won't be investigated for homeschooling. The third thing is that the law states you must have basic education goals of reading, spelling, grammar, mathematics, and a study of good citizenship. The first thing to mention here is that none of this applies until your child is 6 years old. Before that, you can do whatever you want, but by age 6, you have these 3 basic subjects that you must teach, and I'm going to break that down a little further. This is a breakdown of the requirements by law and then the things that you should probably do if you want your children to have a well-rounded education. So first, you need to be teaching age-appropriate language arts. That includes reading, grammar, spelling, vocabulary, literature, writing, but not all of those things every single year, if that makes sense. Obviously, your kindergartner is just going to be focused on learning to read and maybe some beginning spelling, things like that. So you are covering different things for different stages of your kids' education with language arts. Math is really straightforward. Obviously, you're just going to teach them a math book that is age appropriate. And then citizenship is kind of a strange thing, but I want you to think civics. Public schools teach 1 semester of civics, usually in the senior year of high school. But teaching U.S. and Texas history, government, the Pledge of Allegiance, and similar activities will also help meet this requirement. Again, it's not something that you do every single year. At the early ages, like kindergarten through second grade, you don't need a formal history curriculum. Things like Awana Cubbies, Scouts, or simply teaching kids who they are within their family, then their extended family, city, state, country, and world. If you kind of start small like that and expand the child's exposure to who they are in the world, then that meets the citizenship requirement. Obviously, children need to learn other things as well. It's just not required by law. If you want your kids to have a well-rounded education, you will teach them science, art, music, physical education, technology, foreign languages, some home economics things, lots and lots of stuff come into well-rounded education. And if you want them to attend college someday, you're going to need those other things on their high school transcript. Let's talk a little bit about things that are not required. Testing. Many organizations offer standardized testing online or in person for a fee. And if you want that for your own sense of well-being, then go for it. It is completely up to you. It's just not required. Grading. In grades kindergarten through 8th grade, it's merely a way to motivate your student if he or she is motivated by that kind of thing. You can always print up a quick report card to show the local pizza place that's giving out free pizza for A's, but again, that's up to you. No one will ever want or need to know what grade your kids got in 4th grade history. This frees you up to work through material with an emphasis on grasping the subject. Most curriculum will provide tests along the way for you to give your student, if you want to gauge whether or not they are understanding the material. Remember though, all kids process information in different ways, so a test may not give you as good of an idea of what they know as having a conversation with your kids about it will. A certain number of hours or days or weeks of schooling, there's nothing required for that. You will quickly discover that lots of learning takes place while playing, especially at the younger ages, visiting museums, watching documentaries, having conversations, reading, and so much more. Since it's hard to track those moments and it's not required, just don't even try. Just work through your curriculum, add hands-on activities, and set your own yearly schedule and daily routine for whatever works for your family. Accreditation comes up a lot. There are many organizations that offer accreditation, and many curriculum companies are going to advertise that they are accredited by such and such accreditation, and it really doesn't matter. In theory, you could write your own curriculum, and it would be perfectly legal, and it could be really good. When you hear that you need an accredited curriculum, just smile and nod and know that that's not true. Record keeping. Keeping some records, samples of work, and a record of days that you spent schooling might come in handy if one of those rare investigations were to happen to you. So we recommend that you do keep some records, but it's not required by law. And there's no formal what you actually have to keep. So I like to keep a few samples of their schoolwork, and I would like to be able to give someone a calendar of days or a schedule that we kept for our school year so that if there ever was a question as to how much time we spent schooling, I could show them something. But again, there probably won't ever be that question. It's important to pause here for a moment and talk a little bit about high school, because high school is a whole different game. It's why I teach an entire separate workshop on homeschooling high school. But you will be collecting records in high school of all of the classes that your child takes, the credit hours that they earn, the grades, and all of that's going to add up to be a grade point average, and this is important. The transcript will be needed to enter community college, university, trade schools, and even some jobs will ask for your high school transcript. It's more complicated than the younger years, but it's still very doable. Homeschool kids get into colleges and universities all the time. This is my sweet boy, Nathaniel, and he is my second son. He's attending Grand Canyon University in Phoenix right now on a biology with pre-physical therapy track for a degree. And my oldest son graduated from Texas A&M and got a degree in chemical engineering just this week. So It happens all the time, and it's not something that you should worry about. It's very doable. So there are lots of resources out there that can help you, and I'm one of them. I offer transcript services, planning sessions, and anything else that you need to be successful in these important years. It is also important that you look into the curfew laws for your area. Your homeschooled teenager could have a job during the day, and they might be running errands for you once they're driving. So you just want to look into what the law is in your area. Usually, as long as you know where they are at all times and they're not out causing trouble, they won't have any issues. One of your first questions is going to be, do I need to register with the state, let them know that I am homeschooling, or how do I withdraw from the public or private school that my child's already attending? So if your child has never attended a Texas state, public, or private school, you do not need to notify the school district or the state of your intent to homeschool. You are free to just begin as soon as you want, and definitely by law you need to be starting something by age 6. If you have been registered at a brick and mortar school, private or public, you need to formally withdraw. You can do this with a letter, and I'm going to put a link to a sample in this module. And you should send it certified mail so that you can be sure it didn't get lost, or you could email it if you think that the school is going to handle that well. So send it directly to the school your child is attending or scheduled to attend in the next school year if it's summertime. So if you're in a transition between elementary school and middle school, you might want to send the withdrawal letter to the middle school because that's where they're expecting them to show up in the fall. This one letter should be enough, but occasionally a school will ask you to provide proof that you have a curriculum in place that meets the state requirements. If this happens to you, there is a link in this module to a letter of assurance that you can send in response. At this point, you have more than fulfilled your requirements by law, and if you get any other questions, you can ask them to contact THSC, which is the Texas Homeschool Coalition, for more information. They are there to help with these types of unusual circumstances. It doesn't happen very often, but occasionally you get an overzealous principal at a school or a staff member who just doesn't understand the law. So you can forward them to THSC, or you can also contact THSC and they will help you if you have further issues with that. Homeschooling is becoming so popular and common that this is rarely an issue.